All right, I've got 7 reasons why I think that Georgia has won the offseason, that I think Georgia is the biggest winner of this offseason, or at least 7 reasons that makes the argument for that. I think that it's really easy to look at the talent acquisition. Let's call it that. The talent acquisition that Ohio State did this offseason and the money that they spent to get all sorts of talented players on that team. I think it's easy to point to the Buckeyes and say, hey, look at Ohio State. They replaced their quarterback. They went out and got the best running back. They went out and got the best safety. I think it's easy to look at a Texas who obviously reaped the benefits of Saban's retirement through the transfer portal. Right, so I think that there are definitely some teams that you could look at. You could look at Oregon, who I think had a very good offseason. But I've got 7 reasons why I think that the Georgia Bulldogs had the best offseason. Ryan Kelly from Dawg Post here, talking about Georgia, why I think they won the offseason, or at least they are the biggest winner for now. All right, the offseason is not quite over. Spring ball is coming up soon. Real quick, the newsletter, I'm linking that down below. Sign up for that, and you get free insider stories, all that in your inbox every single day. My number one reason, Carson Beck, his return to Georgia. Carson Beck, he could have left, right? There were reports that he wanted all sorts of money to come back. I don't really know what happened there. I'm sure that they gave him a little bit of that money, right? That's what you do. You want a high-level quarterback on your roster? Well, now you probably got to pay for him. So let's put that aside. Carson Beck returned to Georgia. This is a guy that threw for almost 4,000 yards last year, 26, 27 touchdowns, something in that range, 24 touchdowns last year. His first year as a starter, waited his turn. This is a guy that I thought got better and better as the season went on. I think that his best game was against Tennessee. I thought that he just looked like an NFL quarterback that day. But he was good from the jump, right? There's a learning curve when you got to kind of reacclimate yourself to being the starting quarterback of a high-level program, or being a starting quarterback in general. This is a guy that didn't play his first 3 years in college, right? So he went 4 years without playing really meaningful snaps of football. He was just out there in practice. So dipping his toe back in there. It'll be year 2 of he and Mike Bobo in a system together, right? And I think year 2 matters a lot, or at least time matters a lot, right? Meshing, chemistry matters a lot. And he's going to be one of, if not the best quarterback in the country this coming season. If he has a better game and Georgia beats Alabama in the SEC championship, not only is Georgia the 1 seed going on and possibly winning the national championship, but Carson Beck is potentially a Heisman finalist, right? Some of his numbers were better than Stetson Bennett, some of them were worse, but his numbers weren't that different from Stetson's. And Stetson, obviously different circumstances, but he was a Heisman finalist the year prior to Beck. So I think that Carson Beck's return for Georgia, I think it's one of the biggest wins that they had all offseason, right? But I've got 6 more I want to talk about, and it deals with the guys that he's throwing the ball to, the guys that he's giving the ball to. Trevor Etienne. That's my reason number 2. I think getting Trevor Etienne is one of the biggest, and this is not in any particular order, but I think getting Trevor Etienne to leave Florida, come to Georgia, he was one of the top transfer portal running backs, obviously. He and Quinshon Judkins were 1 and 2, probably, depending on who you ask. Judkins, obviously, the more productive back, but Trevor Etienne, a very, very good running back, one of the better running backs of the SEC the last couple of years, averaging like 5.5 yards per carry, amassed 700-plus yards in each of the last 2 seasons. Georgia's missing their top 2 backs. And I think there was a little, more so than the last few years, if they didn't get Trevor Etienne, there would be a little bit more of a question mark next to that running back position heading into this season, right? Branson Robinson's the guy everybody points to, but we don't know what he's going to be like post-injury. Roderick Robinson, didn't play that much as a freshman. There was Cash Jones involved there. There was a couple of freshmen coming in. So I think that position would have been a lot muddier if it wasn't for Kirby and them going out and Dummy and all those guys going out and getting Trevor Etienne to come to Georgia. Now at the very minimum, you got a guy that can be your lead back, a guy that's been in the SEC and has seen these defenses before. You can feed him the ball. So it replenishes that position a little bit more. A position they struggle to stay healthy at, and a position that I think that hasn't been as deep for them the last couple of years as it has been in the past. So adding Trevor Etienne, very, very, very important in my opinion. All right. Reason number 3, returning some guys on defense. We knew that Georgia was going to lose a lot on defense, right? When you look at the secondary, you're losing 3 starters: Tyke Smith, Javon Bullard, Kamari Lassiter. But you get a guy like Smile Mondon coming back, a guy that could be a leader in that linebacker room, a young linebacker room that's very talented. I think that guys like Smile Mondon, Warren Brinson, Nazir Stackhouse, I think having older guys matters. It totally matters. Georgia had a lot of older guys on both of the championship teams. I just think that that's a theme across college football, and I think it's a theme across college basketball. You have some older talent. You have some guys that have just been there before that know what they're doing. I think it's really important. And Smile Mondon's a guy who, before this past season started, the NFL mock drafts were calling him a possible first rounder. He, deals a little bit of injuries. Georgia, I just didn't think they were as productive statistically on defense, and it showed on the scoreboard as well. Georgia just wasn't as good on defense this past year as it was the previous 2 years when they won national championships. Well, if they want to have a really, really good one again, older guys help, and having guys return like Nazir Stackhouse, Smile Mondon, and Warren Brinson, guys that had really good junior years that could come back and have even better 4th, 5th years, whatever it is for them, right? Because a couple of those guys, it would be 5th years. Smile Mondon, this would be year 4 if I'm not mistaken. So I think returning guys matters a lot. This could be the number 1 reason. It's up there. I do think that this next one I'm about to say, but I do think that the Carson Beck return is probably the most important thing that's happened to Georgia this offseason. If you just look at it all, if you just look at it in a vacuum. But hey, look, Nick Saban's retirement. That's my next reason. Reason number 4. Another reason why Georgia won the offseason. It does benefit Georgia. Kirby Smart and Georgia were 1-5 against Nick Saban over this stretch when Kirby's been around. Obviously, one of those was a national championship, but Alabama has been in Georgia's way. And to say that they haven't is just, it's ignorant. I mean, Alabama has beaten Georgia in games that have turned out to be terminal to national championship hopes. Multiple times. A national championship, multiple SEC championships. It happened again this year, this past season. So Nick Saban leaving, I think it changes things at Alabama. Obviously, the fallout was probably more than we really could have predicted, and Georgia really benefits from that. And Kirby Smart, I believe, is probably the new king of college football when we look at it like this, right? Obviously, there's a couple other coaches out there that have won national championships, but Georgia's fueling probably the number 1 program in college football at the moment, and Nick Saban's retirement helps that case. It also bleeds into my next reason, which is one of the guys that they acquired. And that it was not a player, it was a coach, Travaris Robinson. Very good defensive coach. He's going to be a co-defensive coordinator for Georgia. And he's going to be a big reason why Georgia wins some battles on the recruiting trail. This is a guy that's helped Alabama recruit a lot of very good defensive players over the years. And he brings over Jake Pope with him. So a guy that has a chance to start immediately at safety for Georgia and replace Javon Bullard in that spot. So I think reason number 5 there, Travaris Robinson. I just think him not being on Alabama is a win, and then him being on Georgia staff is also a win. So it's a double win there with Travaris Robinson coming over from Alabama. And that kind of mixes in with the Nick Saban retirement reason. Two more reasons why I think Georgia has won this offseason. Number 1 class. All right, Georgia just brought in the number 1 class, and that was with losing Dylan Raiola. Still get a quarterback in this class that they're excited about, so that's not the end of the world. I do think Dylan Raiola is a very talented player. We'll see how it shakes out for him at Nebraska. I will say it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to go over there and watch him play at Buford and watch his arm talent. It was sick. But another reason why they got number 1 class is because the guy they were throwing to in KJ Bolden. That was a very important target for them, but he's not the only guy. But Georgia and Kirby, they're producing some serious classes. I am excited to watch this 2024 class. I think there's a lot of really important future pieces for Georgia in it. And look, that's prediction. That's a little bit of a prediction, obviously. And you can't really know for sure how these guys are going to go. It resets. When you're in middle school, it resets when you get to high school. It's a whole new game. It resets when you get to college. It resets when you get to the pros. So we don't actually know who's going to be really good, but I do think that this class will help. And maybe a little bit, maybe they'll help a little bit this season. At least for depth purposes. My last reason, playoff expansion, right? I mean, I don't see a scenario where Georgia is not in this 12-team playoff. I just don't. I mean, outside of Kirby's first year, they would have made the 12-team playoff every single season. So now we're going to find out who's really legit. And I think Georgia is, and they're going to make the playoff every year. Every year if they just keep up what they've been doing. And that means they have a shot at a national championship every single year, right? It's a little bit more drastic with the 14 playoff, and sometimes, and almost every single year, we have felt, or people have felt, I at least have, that the committee got it wrong, and maybe those weren't the right 4 teams. Was it about the 4 best? Was it about the 4 most deserving? Was it about the right 4? What does any of that mean? Well, it's a little bit out the window now, and this 12-team thing is not perfect. It has its flaws, but it will be an improvement, I think, and I think it's an exciting improvement. I was originally against it, but I've come around to it, and it actually is a huge benefit for Georgia, because guess what? They won't get snubbed, right? They won't get snubbed, and if they do, it probably means they lost a few games, and maybe they didn't deserve to be there, but that should be the case. Moving forward, I think Georgia will be really, really good, and I think the 12-team playoff helps them expand. So if you thought it was Ohio State, you thought it was Texas, you thought it was someone else, I just gave you 7 reasons why I think Georgia is the biggest winner this offseason. Thanks for watching. That link is down below. Ryan Crow from Dawg Post here. Appreciate your viewership.